G'day guys, my name is Caleb, otherwise known as the Critic Kebab. As we all know, the 94th Academy Awards is fast approaching, and in this series, I will be making a verdict on whether the films nominated for Best Picture are actually worthy of winning that extremely prestigious prize. I will be giving my thoughts and breaking down the pros and cons of these movies and explaining why they are so great. That is, if they're even good at all. There will be a playlist with all the videos, so make sure to check them out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more content just like this. This next movie that I'm going to be reviewing is Licorice Pizza, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. And I found this to be a very strange movie. This is the story of Alana Kane and Gary Valentine, growing up, running around, and going through the treacherous navigation of first love in the San Fernando Valley in 1973. A typical love story set during the 70s. Except it's not exactly what you'd expect. And this is why I say it's strange. Alana is a 25-year-old photography assistant helping out at school photo day. Gary is a student at that school and is a 15-year-old child actor who has acquired a moderate level of success. After Gary fearlessly puts on the charm for Alana, she reluctantly accepts to go out on a date with him, and from there, the story unfolds. Let's just get into the meat and potatoes of this review, shall we? To begin with, I just couldn't get into this movie. It's not really my vibe. This is the kind of movie that doesn't really unfold like typically structured films, and is the kind of film that you just need to soak up and vibe with. If this is your kind of film and you enjoyed it, I totally respect that. But me personally, I just couldn't really get into it. The main thing that stood out to me, and it made me confused and slightly uncomfortable for the whole runtime, was the age difference between Alana and Gary. The fact she is an adult dating a 15-year-old student is just weird and frankly inappropriate in my opinion. Just like licorice and pizza, these two should not go together. I can't help but feel if the sexes were reversed and it was an older man dating a 15-year-old girl, there would be public outrage. Nevertheless, this story decision didn't make sense to me, and it halted me from really enjoying this film. I understand this is what makes the film stand out from the rest, but if they were both of a similar age, maybe just out of high school, I feel this concept would have been much easier to buy into. What's not up for debate is how the plot unfolds throughout the film. The story does feel aimless at many stages, and things just happen. The main consistent through line that keeps this movie afloat is the love dynamic between Gary and Alana. But if this focus wasn't well defined within the script, then I feel this could have easily fallen apart. The characters and actors are all charming, but there are just so many story aspects and character moments that I just didn't find that interesting. Especially the scenes with Bradley Cooper. Very strange. But whilst I admit this movie overall didn't quite work for me, there is one sequence towards the end of the film that really stood out to me. And this is actually what I want to focus on for this review. The scene between the closeted homosexual councilman, Joel Wax, and his boyfriend. This part of the review I want to call How to Elicit Immediate Sympathy. The scene at the restaurant where Alana is called in, where she thinks Joel is asking her out, but is actually there just to be a disguise and to discreetly take away his boyfriend so that the journalist doesn't out him during the campaign for mayor. How we got to this moment and the subplot with the councilman does come out of left field, but it does serve a specific purpose of redirecting Alana and Gary towards each other. That aside, Why this scene is so powerful is because it makes you care for two characters that you barely know purely off how tragic this situation is. It is accomplished by great camera work and great dialogue. To start with, this shot illustrates the two-face of Joel Wax. The bright version of himself he portrays to the public, and the private version that is slightly more faint, his true self, is in the background. And in the middle of that is his boyfriend. This scene is conveyed through the perspective of Alana. We come to discover what is really going on through her eyes. The moment of realization is beautifully communicated with this dolly by the camera. It slowly pushes in as the relationship between Joel and Matthew becomes clear to us. These two men who clearly have affection towards each other, but one has become so obsessed with his public image that it overshadows their dynamic. In a time when homosexuality was discouraged, something like this would definitely sink a man's career. And this is what makes this scene so compelling. The close-ups between Joel and Matthew capture the raw emotion, and considering this is the first time we meet Matthew, for us to care about him and his struggle, it is important to convey his current position, how he feels about it, and what the trajectory is. This dramatic scene relies on specific dialogue in order for you to sympathize. And the actors do a great job because this moment worked very effectively. Their breakdown of communication has led to this moment of heartbreak and tension. Their motivations are clear. Joel is making an effort despite his objective for becoming mayor, and Matthew wants Joel and his true self to himself. Their priorities are clearly and quickly outlined, which means all the information the audience needs to understand their dynamic is there, which means it's quicker and easier for the audience to emotionally invest into this situation. It's a 4-minute scene that expertly conveys all the information the audience needs. It's emotionally powerful and very easy to sympathize with these two men. And it's capped off in the following scene by an amazing performance by Joseph Cross.
Thank you, sweetheart.
This was by far my favorite moment of the film, just purely based off how well it was executed. When telling a story or writing a screenplay, it is important to establish compelling characters who have clear motivations, a distinct personality, and a trajectory. And if you communicate all this information swiftly and in an emotionally resonant way, then you've got something exciting to share. My thoughts on Licorice Pizza are lukewarm. It's a story that feels rudderless and is carried by charming performances by the two leads. It's a weird 70s love story that has some standout moments and does maintain your attention somewhat, but isn't exactly what I would call Best Picture worthy. In my opinion, Licorice Pizza is an okay film, with some good aspects and some bad aspects. It's the type of film that is meant to be emotionally invested in and felt, and I just didn't get full enjoyment out of it. Let me know what you thought of the film down in the comments below, and do you think it's actually worthy of winning Best Picture? Make sure you're following me on all the social medias to be fully up to date, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. More Best Picture movie reviews coming soon.